Hi, everybody. It's Ezra Levant. It looks like I'm in some tropical setting. I'm actually in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Tomorrow night, I'm going to northern Alberta. Sherwood Park is the name of the community. It's just across the highway from Edmonton, Alberta's capital city, where I have a book launch scheduled for dinner time. We have a wine and cheese at 4:30, and then afterwards we have a dinner and a speech. Everyone will get a book. I'll give a little bit book talk, and then I'll sign books afterwards. It's a book launch. I've done a ton of them. I think this is actually my 10th book. It's called China Virus, how Justin Trudeau's pro-communist ideology is putting Canadians in danger. So I've done this so many times before I frankly have lost count. They're fun evenings. It's a chance for me to meet people one-on-one. We'll have some books for sale and some merchandise and things like that, and obviously we'll give everyone a book and a book signing. So everything so far so normal. But today, the restaurant that has contracted with us for this book event said they've received a ton of phone calls and emails, all from the city of Calgary. So no one local, no one from Sherwood Park, no one from Edmonton. And this restaurant has received a ton of phone calls from Chinese Canadians, and we don't know the citizenship status of some of them. Some of them might be Chinese foreign nationals, threatening, and in one case, trying to bribe the restaurant to cancel my book launch. Let me say that again. I got my book. It's a bestseller already. Amazon has actually banned it twice. That's the weird thing. The book is critical of China, but more to the point, it's critical of the Chinese Communist Party. And it's critical of how Justin Trudeau is in bed with them. So, regular political stuff. Amazon refused to upload that book for 2 months. They finally relented. The book immediately shot to number one Kindle book in Canada. That's the number one ebook in Canada. Went up to number two soft paperback in Canada. So it was very, very successful. And then bizarrely, they took the book down again after 1 week. That's crazy. Then our lawyers wrote to them again, and they put it back up for now. So they banned it, unbanned it, and then rebanned it, and then re-unbanned it. I'm getting whiplash. So it's sort of crazy, the censorship that this book has faced so far. But this is just a nice little book launch in northern Alberta. It's not a huge event because there's still some pandemic guidelines. So normally we like to rent out a big theater or something. But And these are good folks in this restaurant. They're friends of Rebel News, and we're friends with them. And we're happy to give them some much needed business after restaurants have just been flattened. So, we're going to give them thousands of dollars to host this event. And hopefully we'll introduce some new customers to them. So they're really good people. But they told us they have been getting phone calls all day, but not from the community. I think that's just so important to point out. I mean, Sherwood Park, it's like a suburb of Edmonton. It's its own jurisdiction, but it abuts Edmonton. It's you could call it a bedroom community, but a lot of people in Sherwood Park don't actually work in Edmonton. So if these were actual people from Sherwood Park saying, "I'm never coming back to your restaurant again," maybe the restaurant would know, oh, we've made a mistake. But these are not Edmontonians or people from Sherwood Park. These are not customers. These are all people following the same script, most of them phoning from outside the region. And it seems like a coordinated effort by the Chinese consulate. Now, I don't have proof that the Chinese government is orchestrating this, but the Chinese government has various proxies here in Canada. On campuses, they've used the Confucius Institute before. There's something, I think it's called the United Front. There's People's Liberation Army Legion Society. Like, there's a whole bunch of other proxy and surrogate forces for the Chinese consulate here in Canada. Huawei being one of them. And of course, at Rebel News, we're very critical of Huawei. We have the petition at stophuawei.ca. So Huawei hates us, even though it's my former employee, Ali Khan Velshi, who's their Canadian vice president. I like Ali Khan, but I wish he weren't working for the bad guys. We want to ban Huawei from Canada. Who wants spyware and malware in their phones? So we've, and of course, we've sent Kian Bexty and before him Avi Yamini to China, to Hong Kong, to report on the crackdown on democracy. So, China's no fan of us to begin with. But then my book, a bestseller called China Virus, well, they hate that. Just to be clear, The China virus, I mean, I guess it could refer to the virus that comes from Wuhan, China. But really, when we use the word China virus, look at the subtitle of the book, How Trudeau's Pro-Communist Ideology is Putting Canadians in Danger. So we think that the number one enemy of the Chinese people is the Communist Party of China. The number one victim of the Chinese Communist Party are Chinese themselves. So we're for Chinese democracy, and of course we work closely with many pro-democracy advocates, many of whom are ethnically Chinese. But I want to read to you, I have it here in my hand, and maybe I'll post it online, but I just wanted to print it out so I could read it while I'm using my phone to do this live stream. And by the way, I appreciate your support. And I think I've not enabled the super chats, which is too bad. I wonder if it's possible. It's not even possible to do that now that I've turned it on, which is too bad, because I need a little bit of help, because I think we're going to probably be in a legal battle because of these broadcasts, because of these protests. I mean, let me read this letter. I'm going to read this letter, and if you want to help, I think I'm going to need it. Let me read this to you. This could be a bluff, but this was a letter received by the restaurant in Sherwood Park. Dear CEO, which is sort of weird because I don't think most restaurants have a CEO. I am writing to your executive team and let your management know, I'm just reading it how it's written, I'm not correcting the grammar, what might happen for scheduled event at your place on July 21, 2020 for book launch event. Especially during serious pandemic reopening uncertainty, protect Albertans, your business as well. On the other hand, this activity the author hosted at your place has been reported to RCMP and local police office and Alberta Health Services for investigations. So many legal and financial issues the author met unavoidably by court's order. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds like this author, whose name is Dr. Lian Zhao, has called the RCMP and the police, or at least is pretending to. I don't know. I let you know what the following very risky reasons. 1, can you business afford to potential lawsuit by PM office against the author? I think that means Justin Trudeau might sue me. I don't think that's going to happen, but it might. I noticed that there are numerous misleading data and survey results and disputable arguments cited public media and misunderstood context in Canada and China. I'm not correcting the grammar here. Why would I do that? I'm just telling you what the restaurant received. And there's a picture of the billboard that we have up on Highway 2 in Alberta, the largest highway in the province. Let me move on to page 2 of this letter. It's a 3-page letter. Point 2, can you afford to get involved in crime investigations regarding systemic racial discrimination down the road by RCMP because his book misleading readers by, say, Chinese Cold War, Chinese coronavirus, as shown in several pages in the book? I have compared China's approach to Canada to the Cold War. I think it's a reasonable comparison. I also compare it to apartheid. And in some ways I compare it to Nazi Germany, but I don't go overboard there because, of course, Mao Zedong killed up to 85 million of his own countrymen. And China right now has ethnic cleansing of Tibetans, Uyghurs, Christians, etc. So there are some comparisons with Nazi Germany. There are some comparisons with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. I think an apt comparison is South African apartheid. So in that regard, this letter writer is correct. I'll continue reading the letter that the restaurant received. And other factual statements in the book, such as China's Cold War and pro-China fools. All right, I stand by those. 4, Alberta Health Services watchdog will go to your place and investigate any chances to cause herd infection during the massive meeting. It is not worthwhile for your business to support an author who's putting Canadian in danger and taking unappreciated risk at special period of human beings over the world. It is time to fight against COVID-19. It is truly not a time to punish PM. Don't punish PM. Don't punish little poodle Justin Trudeau. The author is doing hate crimes against Canadian. I am doing hate crimes against Canadians. That's so delicious. I don't even want to dispute that. I'm doing hate crimes against Canadians. I'm not sure if the person who wrote this letter is Canadian, but they care about Canadians a lot. 5, there's a lot of points in this letter to this restaurant, the CEO of the restaurant. I think maybe that means like chef. Maybe they think the chef is like the chief or something. 5, publishing book is hurting Canadian society. CE Pro Foundations Inc., as a Canadian registered not-for-profit organization, have commitment to stand up the crime hates against Canadian. Someone's got to stop Ezra Levant from hating Canadians. And maybe this is the person who's going to do it. Could be. Let me conclude. Anyway, I am reminding your management team for unprecedented risks you are facing by providing access to Ezra's book launch. Hey, that's Mr. Ezra to you. We do understand that you are running conscientious business and you should avoid any hurts and damages for the public and your local communities. Okay, there is just a little bit on the 4th page here. So I'm just reading the letter. Meanwhile, you have obligation as a Canadian business to stop any racial discrimination situation since you have been noticed, or any crime investigation will be underway from various parties I mentioned here. I wish that you can stop any risky business and serve your community better. Sincerely, Dr. Lian Zhao, President, CE Pro Foundations, Inc. P.S. There's a P.S. here. I always read the P.S. P.S. So many protesters will be at Sense at that time. If the event still exists, it will be your business' very bad reputation. Wow. So that was signed by Dr. Lian Zhao, president of CE Pro, which he or she says is a nonprofit, and very fancy. It's written on their stationery, and they could have run it through Grammarly or something, but I think the message is clear. Don't let that anti-Canadian hate crime guy, Ezra Levant, continue his anti-Canadian hate crimings, or the PM will sue him for hate crimings against Canadians, etc. Now that's sort of funny because I don't think that there's anything behind this. I don't think the RCMP are going to try and censor my book. They'll probably leave that to Amazon. And I don't think the police will, and there's a lot of different authorities there that were cited. I don't think this person actually contacted them. It's just a hunch. I think this person is based in Calgary, so I don't think they're going to come up to, although I could be wrong. They could get in a bus and go up to there and protest. Just to be sure, we have security, and we have a lawyer. It's so weird. We got to have security and lawyers at all our events in case some trouble comes. But that's what we're doing. And so anyhow, I'm told that the restaurant has had calls all day, plus emails like that. But the funniest or least funny call was this, and I heard this today, that they received a phone call from someone, I don't know if they were Chinese Canadian or a Chinese national, offering them $3,000 to cancel the event. What do you think of that? That's what makes me think it might be Huawei, because they are throwing money around to anyone who'll take it. Now, so far, sorry, I'm laughing. It's not funny, though. It's not funny. This is how China loyalists operate. And by the way, I want to tell you that some of my absolute favorite people in the world are Chinese democracy activists. You know, back at Sun News Network, where I had a show for 3 wonderful years, every year, one of my favorite times was to have the Canadian of the Year. And I remember one year we gave that award to Joe Wong of NTD TV, a wonderful Chinese democracy activist who is busy in Toronto fighting for democracy back in China. He told me that his brother was in the hospital in China, and his brother called him from China to Toronto and said, the secret police are here, they want to talk to you. And he handed the phone over to the Chinese Stasi or Gestapo or whatever they're called in Chinese. And they basically threatened Joe Wong here in Toronto that he'd better stop talking about freedom and democracy, or his brother, who was sick in the hospital. You could probably find that video online. I don't know if the Sun News Network video, not all their videos are online, but that was Joe Wong. And I love Joe Wong for it, and I love the fact that he kept fighting for freedom even though his own family, imagine that, they send the Gestapo right into his brother's hospital room. How terrifying is that? Other heroes like Cindy Gu, of the Epoch Times, many Taiwanese Canadians, many Tibetan Canadians, a lot of Hong Kong people who love freedom. So I think there's a great many Chinese Canadians who love freedom and democracy and want China to become more like Hong Kong, not Hong Kong to become more like China. And this is an important fight, but the fact that they feel comfortable using these China-style bully tactics here in Canada, I think is newsworthy. I'm very glad that the restaurant so far has not caved in. As you may know, I don't take kindly to people deplatforming me, and the last time my book launched, there was an attempt to deplatform. We sued everyone who actually managed to convince the theater to cancel, and we're still in court on that. So if this person, Lian Zhao, God forbid, were able to convince the restaurant to cancel, I would sue her or him for deplatforming me, because that's a tort in the British law, inducing a breach of contract. That's actually a tort, as lawyers would call it. So anyways, that's my report. And if you want to help us out, go to ChinaVirusBook.com. And there's two ways you can help on that site. One is buy the book before it's banned again. And the other is there's a place to make donations. And then you might be thinking, why would I make a donation? Well, because we're spending hundreds of dollars having a bodyguard or a security guard and a lawyer at this book event to make sure it goes forward. And I get the feeling that this isn't the last of it. I read this because there's a lot of laughs in it. That's sort of the most unterrifying threat letter I've ever seen. But that's me, because I'm used to these threats all the time. What about the restaurant? They're not used to threats. Now, they're savvy enough to know that, this is not a regular customer there, not at all. It's someone from Calgary who's making a fuss. Perhaps because the consulate says so, who knows. But I think there's a real risk that that this could happen. That if not this restaurant, another event could censor it. We've already seen how Amazon has censored the book, and I'm worried that others will. So go to ChinaVirusBook.com, get a copy if you haven't already, and there's a little place to chip in to help us keep our billboard going. That billboard, I think, is $2,400. You can see a picture of it on the website. And I have a feeling in my bones that in addition to the security and lawyers we're going to need tomorrow night in Sherwood Park, we're probably going to be in some big battle over this book that hasn't revealed itself yet. It's just a hunch I have. I promise I'll keep you posted either way. Anyways, that's my update. I hope you have a great afternoon. For those of you who bought tickets tomorrow night, I'll see you up there in Sherwood Park, just outside Edmonton. And for the rest of you, I'm serious. This book has been banned twice by Amazon in the last 3 weeks. So if you haven't got it yet, please consider getting it. Just because if you don't, it might be gone a third time. I don't know. And if you think it's important to fight back against bullies like this person, I mean, I'm laughing because the letter is so absurd. But that's just because they don't know our vocabulary and our grammar yet. If this letter were written more seriously and more professionally, it would actually be quite terrifying, wouldn't it? So that's the kind of world we're in right now. Go to ChinaVirusBook.com. That's it for me. I'll have some news when I'm up there tomorrow in Sherwood Park. Until next time, on behalf of all of us rebels, wherever we are in the world, it looks like I'm in some tropical paradise, doesn't it? I'm actually just in Calgary. All right, good night, everybody. Keep fighting for freedom.